colors. Remember, we're in drawing. We did 12. We clicked on this and hit the reset and then adjusted them to be the colors. Okay. So we're big zeroing and we're big oneing. Okay. So we put our balance beam in. We look to the problem. Are we going to big zero first or are we going to big one first? Big zero, because we see addition and subtraction, we big zero. Okay, I highlighted what we needed to zero out. Okay, so how are we going to go about zeroing that positive 5 out of there? Subtract 5 on both sides. Okay, Christian, that's the last one you're going to do for a couple minutes. Let someone else do. Okay, subtract 5 from the left, subtract 5 from the right. Once this thing goes away. Because whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side of the balance beam. That's why we put the balance beam to remind us. We know that positive 5 minus 5 makes 0, so that's why I get to cross it out. It became a 0. And then we have to look at what's left. After that 5 is gone, what's left? What the whole thing, what's left after we zero out that one thing? What's our math look like when we're done with all of that? Yes, 4x equaling 40. Because the 0 gone, 4x is all that's left, and 45 take away 5 is 40. Okay, so now we have to get rid of, what's this? 4. Whenever we say letter with number, we need multiply. So we're going to create a 1 by doing division. If I'm originally multiplying by 4, how do we undo a multiply by 4? Divide both sides by 4. So 4x divided by 4, arrow off, has to equal the 40 divided by the 4. Okay? So 4 divided by 4, that's the number 1. 1 times the letter doesn't matter. That's why we cross it out. It no longer matters. We only have an x, and then we do the math to the other side. What do we get? X equals 10. Okay? So now I have to go down below. And I have to pick my colors and get my light green. And I have to go down below, and anywhere I see 10, I'm going to color it light green. So where do we see the 10? Is it in one spot or more than one spot? Where do we see the 10? Where do we see the 10? Yep, second box going sideways, right? So we're coloring it in. I should still be able to see the number 10. And I know some of you art people, it's kind of driving you crazy that it's getting on the edge, but don't worry about it. It's not worth worrying about it. Light green. Okay. Now, I want my light green to be a little darker light green. So I'm going to go over it twice. But you don't have to. It's up to you. It's light green as it is. Now, when you let go of the mouse is when you could go back over it and make it a little bit more. Until you let go of the mouse, it won't let you do a second layer for those doing a second layer. Okay, scroll back up. Next problem. Put our balance beam in. What do we have to get rid of? How are we going to get rid of it? Okay. That says -7. We undo -7 by adding 7 on both sides. Seven take away 7, 0. What's left to work with? What's the whole thing going to say? What's left to work with? 32x equals 64. Okay. We have to get rid of what's with the x. How are we going to do it? Divide both sides by 32. Okay, so 32x divided by 32. Oops. Arrow off has to equal the 64 divided by the 32. Okay, what's it going to be? My x has to equal 2. And 2 is going to be orange. So I go to my drawing. I pick my orange. I go down below. I find the 2's. It's the ribbon. So I'm going to color those orange. And you were supposed to pick the transparency of halfway so that the number still shows through. It should still be showing through. That's why I told you transparency halfway. All right. How do we got to handle it? What are we going to do? Subtract 3 from both sides because that says +3, and we undo a +3 by doing a -3. And whatever we do on one side of the balance beam, we have to do on the other. We've done quite a few of these already. It's like multiple days of this. Okay. What's left? One half arrow off of x equaling 6 minus 3 was 3. Okay. So we have to undo this half. Now, if I say half of something, What math am I actually asking you to do? If we take half of something, we're actually dividing. So we have to undo a divide. How do you undo a divide? We multiply by the denominator when it's 1 over, or by the reciprocal flip over when it's not. So how are we going to undo a half? What are we going to do to move that half out of there? Multiply both sides by 2, not 2 over 2, by 2. So it's the reciprocal. So we're multiplying both sides by 2 over 1 times 1 over 2. So they both look like a fraction. And then we have an x, right? And that's going to equal the other side. Now, the right side is not a fraction, so I do not have to write my number 2 as a fraction. The only reason why we're writing the left side as a fraction is to remind us that this whole big fraction thing becomes the number 1. Because top times top, bottom times bottom, it ends up being 2 over 2. And that's the number 1. So we are not multiplying by 2 over 2, we're multiplying 2 over 1. We're multiplying by the fraction flipped over. It was a 1 over 2, we flip it over, 2 over 1. Okay? So what's left to work with on the left side? X, because we don't write 1x, we just write x, and that's going to equal 6. So wherever there's a 6, we're going to color it red. I see a 6 in 2 spots. Upper right and lower left of the big box. So we'll go color those in. As long as you don't let go of the mouse, it'll stay all the same shade. But if you let go partway through, you want to undo and just start over. Okay, 6 is done. Okay, put our balance beam in. What do we do first? Add 7 to both sides because I see that I have an addition or subtraction, and I need to zero it out by doing the opposite. So it means I have to add 7 to both sides. That makes that -7 turn into a 0 and leaves behind what? What's left? Say the whole line all the way across. Say the whole line all the way across. 20y equaling 93 plus 7, 100. That's where it came from. So we need to get the letter alone. So what are we going to do? Divide 20 on both sides. Yep. So 20y divided by 20, arrow off, has to equal the 100 divided by the 20. Okay. What does that give us when we get that done? Y equals 5. So anywhere I see a y of 5, I'm going to color it dark blue. So remember, dark blue is not one of my colors, right? I've already done red, I've already done orange, I've already done light green. So I can choose to change one of those to my dark blue, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my light green to a dark blue so that I have it to color with. Okay, changed my light green to a dark blue. Now, where do I see the y equals 5? Second box, where? Yeah, upper left, lower right. Okay, so I'm coloring in upper left, dark blue. Ah, no, I don't like it. That's the hard part. You got to go just fast enough or you overthink it, but just slow enough that you have control of the mouse. Okay. Okay, so that one's done. Next one. Okay, balance beam in. I look and I see a number. Now, what kind of 2 is that? It doesn't have a symbol in front of it. It's positive when it doesn't have a symbol. So how would I undo positive 2? And where am I going to undo it to? Subtracting 2 from both sides, yes. Okay. Subtracting 2 from both sides. All right, so put that in. The 2 is gone. Numbers with that X, that K that we don't see, but we know is there. what number is in front of that letter K that we know is there but do not see? Yes, 1. Okay, so there's actually a 1 in front of this K, and we do not put letters on fractions. So we have to push the K off the fraction and put the number back that should have been there. So this is 1/3 arrow K. That is how we should write it. They don't sometimes because they're lazy in books, but it should say 1/3 K. Okay, that's going to equal whatever happens on the other side. So what's going to happen on the other side? Do the math for the right-hand side. What are we going to get? 3. Okay, so just like this one about red, we undid a half by multiplying by its flip over. We have to undo the 1/3 by multiplying by its flip over. If we flip 1/3 over, what would it look like? If we flip 1/3 over, what is it going to look like as a fraction? 3/1. So this is going to say 3/1, oops, arrow off, parentheses, 1/3, arrow off, K, parentheses, K. Okay? So because we want that whole fraction stuff, everything that's the fraction has to turn into the number 1. And 3 times 1 makes 3. 1 times 3 makes 3. 3/3 makes the number 1. So that's why we get to cross that out, because that whole thing, fraction style, became 1. The other side of the equation is going to do 3 times the whole number that was already there. The whole number that was already there was 3. But this 3 is the same thing as 3/1. The outside is the same as what we did to the left, 3/1. Okay, so the math. What would be left? Yes, our K would have to equal 9. So pink is 9. So let's go draw. Pink is 9. That's the center thing. Remember, if you don't want it to end up looking streaky, hold the mouse the whole time until you're fully done. Because you can't go back and fix the white after you let go of the mouse, or it ends up being streaky looking. Found out. Okay. Top row done, not bad. Okay, let's go to the next row. Let's go to the next row. Okay, put our balance beam in. Look for things we need to move away from the letter. What are we going to do to make that happen? Subtract 7 from both sides, exactly. Because this is +7 and we need to turn +7 into a -7. We need it to turn into 0, right? So I'm going to subtract 7 on the left. I'm going to subtract 7 from the 7, not the 2G. Make sure you line it up with the 7. And then we go do our math. If I take 15 minus 7, what am I going to get? Equaling to what? 8, equaling 2 G's, right? Because that become the number 0. So 2G was all that was left. And 15 take away 7 is 8. All right. We need to get rid of what's with the letter by undoing what it says. That says multiply by 2, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. Our 8's going to divide by 2, and it's going to equal our 2G's dividing by 2. Okay. 2G divided by 2G, all gone. Now, when we write our final answer, where do letters go? When we write our final answer, where do letters go? Letters go left. Yes. Letter starts with the letter L. Left starts with the letter L. Letters go left. So that's why it says G equals 4. And anywhere we see a 4, we're going to go color it brown. So I'm going to go pick my brown. And that's the label. I'm trying so hard to keep the brown out of the orange. Not my favorite color. It's okay. Okay. Put our balance beam in. Look for things that are on the side with the letter that are not the letter. Undo them. How would we do that? This is positive 10. So yes, we would subtract negative 10 or subtract 10. Not subtract negative. We would subtract 10 from both sides because we want the 10 to become 0 because adding 0 doesn't matter. That's why it's gone. 0. Okay, we have to do our math and tell me what the whole row says. So 15, yep, because 25 take away 10 is 15, has to equal what was left on the 5K. Okay, so now we got to get rid of what's the letter. The way we do that is we undo this multiply by 5. So we're dividing both sides by 5. So 15 divided by 5, arrow off. That has to equal the 5K divided by the 5. That makes 5 divided by 5, 1. And 1 times things don't matter. So that's why it doesn't get written anymore. And letters go left. So what would our final answer be? K equals 15 divided by 5, 3. So everywhere we see a 3, we're going to pick our light blue. I'm going to go get my drawing, blue. Oops. Undo. Everywhere I see a 3, it's light blue. This piece down the middle. Right? Okay. Let's go get the next one. Balance beam in. Look for what's not a letter. Undo that. That says +5, so -5 to both sides. Subtract 5, -5, same thing. When I do that, those 5s are gone, and I do the math for what's left, and I remember that letters do not go on top of fractions. I have to push them off, just like we did for the last one on the top row. So what's it gonna say? Yes. That, oh, Christian, you're missing something. That 4 is going to equal, push the A off, 1/2 A. Okay. Because we know there's a 1 there. I see 1A, so there is 1A. But the A is not supposed to be on the fraction. He has to get pushed off the edge. Just like this last one on the top row. Okay, so we have to look. What's with the letter? How are we going to make that go away? Taking half of something is the same thing as dividing, so I have to flip it over and multiply, right? But 4 is a whole number, so we don't have to worry about it. So 2 times the 4 is going to equal 2 over 1, arrow, 1 over 2, 8, right? Because this whole thing becomes the number 1, and I don't care about it anymore. That's the goal. When I'm multiplying, I want to get the 1, because 1 times something does not change it. And when I'm adding and subtracting, I want to do the opposite so that it becomes 0, because 0 plus something doesn't change anything. Okay, so what am I going to have left, and how am I going to write the final answer? Yep, that my A equals 8, because letters go left. Letters are left. Okay, so where I see the number 8, I'm going to be yellow, drawing yellow 8. Okay, so where's my 8? Oh, it's just this little tiny piece in the middle. Two more and we get to start the homework assignment. And I have a couple that are tricky ones that I want to do with you. Balance beam. Highlight what's not a letter, the number 1. How are we going to make that number 1 disappear? Subtract 1 from both sides, because 1 take away 1 is 0, and 0 plus stuff doesn't matter. And then we go do our math, and what's the row going to say? Okay, so 4 equals 4b. Yep, I agree with that. Okay, we go look what's not a letter, and we make it go. Divide both sides by 4. Exactly. Now, the only time we cross out our ones are when they're on the side with the letter, because this 1 times b does not matter anymore. Okay, we do not cross out a 4 divided by 4. We turn that 4 divided by 4 into the number we know they are. So what would my final answer look like? Yes, the b equals 1. So that's green. So dark green, 1, these two. Remember to be careful. Hold on to the mouse until you're fully done, or it'll make streaky. You know, like with your markers when you were in class on paper and that's streaky. We don't want that. Okay, so yes, we know what color this is going to be. And yes, we know the answer to the last problem, but we need to go do the work to prove it. What is 7 going to be colored because it's the last one we have to color? Purple. So I'm going to go get my purple and I'm going to pre-color my 7. Because I know it's purple, it's the last problem, it's the last thing to color. Okay. Okay. So, and I know that this last problem is going to say that my V equals 7. I know that because it was the last one and it was the answer for the last color, right? But now I have to go do the work to prove it. Okay. So, what do we think we do first? Think about it. What do we have to do first? So we go and we look and we notice this is getting in the way. We have to undo that first. So we have to do it in reverse. Because of how they structured this, notice this compared to the other fraction ones. The other fraction ones just involved the letter. This fraction involves the whole thing. So that is why we have to undo that divide by 15 first. Okay, that is why we have to undo the divide by 15 first. All right, so if I undo a divide by 15, what would I be doing? If I undo a divide by 15, what would I be doing? Multiply by 15 on both sides. So I have a 15 times a 1 And that's going to equal a 15 over 1, and then arrow over, parentheses, v plus 8. Oops, that's in the wrong spot. The mouse is in the wrong spot. V plus 8. Then I have to highlight it and say divide by 15 and arrow out of it to get its parentheses. Okay. Whenever we want multiple parts that are addition and subtraction on the top of the fraction, we have to highlight them and then hit the divide symbol. Okay. All right, so that gets the 15s now became the number 1. The number 1 is still the number 1, so we don't need it anymore. So what are we going to have left? What's it going to say? Once all that stuff is gone, what's it going to say? Yes, 15 equals v plus 8. Okay, so now we have to undo the plus 8. So whenever we have it set up so that the entire top is over the fraction, we have to do it in reverse. When the number is the only thing over the fraction, we big 0, then big 1. When the whole thing is over the fraction, we big 1 and then big 0, because the structure is different. So how are we going to get that plus 8 out of there? Yep, subtracting 8 from both sides. Okay. And we proved that our answer that we colored in purple was correct, right? Okay, so you're going up to the top, you're hitting save. If yours says turn in, hit the words turn in, then go to the Google Classroom and turn it in, please. We are going to open the homework assignment and do a few of these together. So there's some tricky ones that I want to do with you. So turn in on the Kami, turn in on the Google Classroom. Those are due. Turn in on the Kami, turn in on the Google Classroom, open up the worksheet for assignment 14, because there's some of these I want to do with you because they're trickier. They're not like the basic ones we just did. So turn in on the Kami, turn in on the Google Classroom, open up assignment 14 in Kami. Now let's see our colors. Red, green, purple, orange, pink, blue, orange, red, green, purple. Are all those colors in our drawing template? Red, green, purple, blue, orange, yellow, pink. Yep, those are all there. So we don't have to worry about resetting it. What we do, we have to worry about resetting those. We need it to be 8, and this is why. Look, it's tiny spaces. So you need to be an 8 instead of a 12. And you want your transparency still halfway. Okay. So I want to work out these ones that have fractions. They're not 1/overs with you because they're different. We did some on the last worksheet that were 1/2 or 3/1, 1/3. We did those, but we didn't have any that were fractions that weren't 1/overs. So I'm going to do these two if we have time. Maybe we'll do a little more if we have time. But I want to get these two that don't have 1 over them done first, because they're going to be the tricky ones. Okay, put in our balance beam. The other thing they're doing that's tricky on this one is they now have negative numbers as well. They now have negative numbers now. And you do have to make it a little bit of smaller print because you don't have as big a space. Starts the same though. I need to undo my addition and subtraction. So what am I going to do? Add 10 to both sides. Okay. So I'm going to add 10 to the left. I'm going to add 10 to the right. Because I know whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. I have to keep the balance. Okay. And 10 take 10 away is 0. So we're good there. This left side is going to say 2/3 x. Because that's what was left. And it equals. Now, the right says -12, +10. Are those the same sign? Are -12 and +10 the same sign? No. So when they're not the same sign, what do we do? When they're not the same sign, what do we do? Yeah, we subtract and keep the sign on the bigger, which is why Christian jumped ahead and said it was 2/3 equals -2. Come on, give him time to think, Christian. Come on. Okay. So they're not the same sign. So we subtract and keep the sign on the bigger one. We've done those a lot. All right. So remember what I said. To undo a fraction, we actually multiplied by its it's called the reciprocal, the flip over. Okay, we multiply by the flip over. And the flip over of 2/3 would be 3/2. So I would be multiplying the left side by 3/2, arrow, 2/3, right? And then x. Oops. And that's going to equal the right side -2/1, because we need them both to look like fractions. 3/2. Okay. So 3/2 times 2/3. If I multiplied it, it would make 6/6. That is the number 1. That was our goal, that this became a 1, right? Because we undid this 2/3 that was with the x. And then we look at the other side. I'm going to put my answer up over in the corner here. There's only an x left, right? If I look at this right side, I notice 2's dividing by a 2, and then there's a 1. All that's left is a -3 once I get rid of everything. So my x equals -3. Because whatever I do on the left, I have to do on the right. Okay, whatever I did on the left. Oh, where'd you go? No. Go back. Whew. That was kind of scary. Okay, whatever we do on the left, we have to do on the right. Okay, my x equals -3 because I see it was a -2. I was multiplying by a positive. That's why it's -3. That negative is still there, even though the 2 and the 1 got crossed out. Okay, so anywhere I see a -3, I'm going to color it orange. So I'm getting my colors and I'm going to get my orange. And I want to get a better orange, more orangey orange than this. Okay, wherever I see a -3, I got to color the orange. So I see a -3 right here in this ring in the middle. Do we see any other -3s? This is harder than the straight ones. No. think I just have to go fast is what I got to do. Right? Because as soon as you go slow, you overthink it. Do I see any more -3s? Yeah, the 12, I know, but the problem is that when we get to some of these smaller places, 12 is going to be too big. So you can switch back and forth from the 8 and the 12 and stuff. That's whatever works for you. I wanted mine to be more orange standout, but no more. Yeah, the 12 will not work for some of these smaller spots. So be prepared to switch out of the 12 is what I'm trying to tell you. And not everything is a circle or a rectangle. So, okay, so there's another one that has a fraction, and that's 13. We're going to do that one together now. Okay, we're going to go do 13 together now. Because it also has, right? So obviously for the circle, using the shape tool makes sense. I agree. But you can't have that center colored in. So I'm wondering how you're dealing with that. All right, so we have to do the same thing. We have this big fraction we need to get rid of. It's not a 1/, and it starts with getting rid of the 45, right? So we'd have to subtract this 45 from both sides. Okay. Oops, he's in the wrong spot. All right, so that 45 is gone. What's still here? What's it going to look like? What's it going to say? Yes, 5/6, arrow for the x, has to equal 50 minus 45 is 5. Okay, now we have to get rid of that fraction. How do we get rid of fractions again? What do we do to them? We flip them over. So whatever's there, we flip them over. So that says a 6/5, arrow off, times a 5/6. That was our goal because we wanted it to turn into the number 1, x, equals a 5/1, arrow off, times a 6/5. Because whatever we did on the left side, we have to do on the right side too. This was a 6/5 times, so this is a 6/5 times on both sides, same thing. So that gets us, this becomes the number 1, done. 5 divides by 5, right? 1. 1 changes nothing. So all that is left is x equals 6, exactly. I'm actually going to move this here. So we have to go color the 6's yellow. Okay, positive 6's. Oh, those are circles. So let me try this. How do you make it so that it doesn't color in the center? Because if I just pick circle, it's going to color that whole circle in the color, and the center is supposed to be something different. You're using the outline one. So you're just going ahead and clicking the circle, saying it's 12, and then going like, oh, so that it makes it like that. Okay, but I need to be yellow, not red. Okay, so I'm gonna undo that. Cool. That was super helpful, thank you. Now I have to pick yellow. For the circles, yeah, mostly. Might have to undo and try again. It's where you start your circle line. I think that makes the big difference. I think you have to start it on the very edge of the circle and then stretch it. I'm still gonna have to go back and color part of it in yellow, but this is not too bad. It's better for the circles at least. Thank you for the tip. Any other sixes but these ones? Oh, that's right. I can shift that circle over because of the select tool. Give me a second. So what she's saying is, see how my circles aren't quite lined up? I can go pick the select and I can pick that I want this circle and I can move it. And I can move it multiple ways. I can pick the hand tool as well and grab it and move it and stretch it a little more. If I pick the hand tool. For circles, the rectangles aren't going to be so as easy. They're just going to have to be colored in. Beautiful. Okay, so we still have a few more minutes. Is there another one we want to do? You want to do number 11? 11 is just an X. Number 7, oh, because it has another fraction. Well, actually, let's go talk about this number 11. It's actually a trickier one than some think. Okay, so, and then we'll go look at 7. Okay, I need the line tool back. I need to fix this though, because I'm back to numbers. All right, so we still have to do like we did before. We need to get rid of what's not a letter. So this 11 needs to go. What are we going to do to make the 11 go? Subtract 11 from both sides. So this piece is normal, right? Normal. Same as we've done. Okay. What's left? What's left on the left-hand side? Ah, negative X. Don't forget, there was a negative there, and it's still there. Subtract sign means negative. 29 take away 11, 18. Okay. Now, there is a number with this letter. What number is really in front of this X? A 1, but not a 1, a negative 1. Because it was negative in front, it's a negative 1. And we have to undo multiplying times a negative 1 by doing what? Dividing on a negative 1. So negative 1x, highlight it, divided by negative 1, so that the negatives show on both levels, because you need them to be showing up on both levels. And that's going to equal, once we get off the fraction, the 18 divided by the negative 1. Okay, so that would make the -1 divided by -1 into 1, gone. And our final answers say x equals -18. Okay. Okay. So we got to go look where it's red. So our drawing is going to be red. -18. Where are those? Not on circles. -18 is this star thing in the middle. So that's when you're going to want to be an 8, because 12 is too big. And we got to go pick red. We have to color in the star stuff. And don't sweat that it goes out of the line, even though it's prettier when it doesn't. And for those that this is really super bugging, when you get home, if you want to print out what you've got in color and finish it up on the paper, that's fine. But then you have to take a picture of both pages, insert them on a Google Doc, and get rid of the cami. So if this coloring virtually is really, getting to you, you can print out what you have in color and finish it on the real paper. But like I said, that the pictures have to be inserted on a Google Doc that you add to the assignment. You insert to the Google Doc the pictures, and then you delete the cami. I'm not doing so bad. All right. What do we want to do now? We still have a few more minutes. Still have a couple minutes. Which one do we want to do? Number 7? Okay, let's go look. Oh, that's because it has a half in it. How do you undo half? You just flip it over. Okay. All right, so let's go do it. I got to get rid of my addition and subtraction first. So what am I going to do? Add 18 on both sides so that 18 becomes 0. So I'm left with half of an x equaling what? 20. Okay. How do we undo a fraction? No big deal. What are we going to do? Yep, multiply by 2 over 1. The fraction side only. What is another way to say 2 over 1? Just the number 2. So remember, you're multiplying by 2 on both sides, but because this side is a fraction, you're multiplying by 2 over 1 version of the fraction, okay, of the 2, so that the fractions line up and disappear, okay? But it still means the number 2. So don't get all messed up in your head that that 2 over 1 is not the same as multiplying by 2. It is. It's just you want the fraction side to stay looking like fractions, so you know this all becomes 0, becomes 1, because 2 times 1 is 2, over 1 times 2 is 2. 2 over 2, the number 1, okay? And we're multiplying by 2 on the other side, but since the 20 is a whole number, we do not have to worry about doing the over 2 thing. Okay, so what's our final answer? X equals what? I don't think 20 times 2 makes 10. 40. Okay, so blue for 40s. Where are our 40s? Oh, there are all these little pointy things. Okay. We got this, right? I think that there is a way to pick the eraser so that you can just erase a little specific thing instead of the whole things, yes. But this, if anything that this distance learning's taught me is to be flexible. And even though it really is something that my normal personality doesn't like, that out of the lines thing, I am learning to just let it go, like in Frozen. Okay. All right. So you are continuing on with that. I'm stopping sharing. I don't know why people are off their cameras. We know better. Continue coloring those little diamondy parts. You are finishing up the worksheet. When is this due? Alexa, no. When is this due? Before 10:46 tomorrow. Yes. Okay. All right. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.